Thank you, Jim, for coming on the channel. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely.
But one of the questions I always like asking authors when I have them on here is, who was the very first person to kind of inspire you to start writing, and who first told you you had any kind of talent for this?
All right, they weren't the same. Those two people weren't the same person. But the first person to inspire me to start writing was Margaret Weiss of the Dragonlance Chronicles. And she and Tracy Hickman wrote the Dragonlance Chronicles. And one day she came in to give a talk at my high school. And I was in the high school library. It was my senior year. And this will tell you too much about me. I was in high school. I was skipping class because I was a cool senior, and it was the last semester. And you do stuff like that last semester, and teachers and administrators kind of give you a blind eye, especially if you've been a good student the whole time. And but I was skipping class because I was cool, but I went to the library to read while I was skipping class. So
Nice.
yeah, that was the most nerdy cool kid thing to do that I could imagine in retrospect. But while I was there, the assistant principal walks in, and his name was Leroy Brown. He was our
Of course he was.
Bad Leroy Brown. He was in charge of discipline at the school, So he walks in and says, "Jim, what are you doing here?" And I'm like, he says, "You must be here for the writer talk." I said, "Yes, I am here for the writer talk."
Absolutely.
He says, "Great, you can help me set up some chairs." And so I did. And Margaret Weiss came in and she started talking about being a writer. And I got really excited because, I still had very little idea of what I wanted to do with my life. And, I thought that was pretty much an unattainable sort of dream. But, she was from Independence and she had become a writer. So maybe I could too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one thing I've always kind of, wondered, as like, I know I've heard the stories of you and your college professor, and how quickly after, were you still in college when you got your deal, or how
No.
far out of college were you once you finally got
No,
picked
I had gotten thrown out of the professional writing program by then. Yeah, they asked me not to come back, and when I filled out the paperwork to try and come back anyway, they lost it 7 times. And
Nice.
so I said, okay, well, I guess it's time to enter the private marketplace, and I got a job working IT, where I would work all night. So I was the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. guy. And they mostly liked me because I knew just enough programming that I could make things work until a programmer's alarm went off at 6:30. So they all knew that if I was there that night, I was not going to wake them up at 3 a.m. with a problem that had to be solved immediately. So I enjoyed that job. But no, that was I didn't sell until I think 2 years after that.
Okay.
After I was out of the writing program there at OU, but. I remember when they threw me out, I was furious, and I went into the office to talk to my professor because it wasn't her call; it was somebody further up the chain from her, and she was like, "Listen, I understand. I think you've gotten screwed over too, but I know you're going to be able to be a writer eventually, and I know that things have not gone well here for you. And I'm not saying you have to go out and advertise for the professional writing program at OU here, but please just don't pan us. Just don't say we're awful. I've worked really hard to try and make this program work. And after all, she was the person who taught me everything I needed to know about writing. And so I didn't. I'll tell the truth about what happened, but I don't go around being all angry at them.
Yeah. Well, and knowing
program, you get into a master's program anywhere at a university, you better have a minor in politics. That's
well, and I know on several occasions, you have been you've written things, or things have motivated you which were kind of challenges, like people telling you can't do stuff. Was that the starting point for that, where you're like, oh, you're kicking me out? Well, guess what? I'm gonna make it. Was that kind of in your head?
No, that's been there longer than that. I'm just one of those kids that they could always get to do anything by telling me they didn't think I could. And,
Yeah.
So that was just the way it wound up. But it just happened that, I had some challenges dropped on me along the way, and I use those for, I use those for energy. the universe is always throwing energy at you, and sometimes that energy doesn't look very useful. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
But almost everything, even the negative energy, sometimes you can take that in and use it to make something good. And I think that's been a secret superpower of mine. You know.
well, and that's what I tell everybody. I was like, no matter what challenges come your way, what something good, something bad, you can make good out of it. You just
Yeah.
have to kind of find it. Whether that's, like you said, negative energy that can be like a force to push you forward. Like, no, I'm not gonna be stuck here. I'm gonna, we're gonna push forward and we're
Yeah.
gonna, make it.